In previous videos, I had gone over the process of how I had grown successfully, very successfully grown my own potting mix this year in 2024. And so now I want to begin the process of adding to that, right? Now I want to be able to grow, to be able to produce my own pots. So the method that I'm about to share is one that comes from my inspiration to not want to overcomplicate the process, right? And I'm also trying to utilize garden space in my garden where I'm actually not actively growing other plants, right? So this space can still be productive, not so much in terms of food, but in terms of supplies for next year. So on that note, let's go check it out. All right, so this is a non-edible gourd. The big apple gourd, I believe. The gourd as it's forming looks a lot like a very dark green huge apple, and this is basically the gourd that I'm going to try to use to grow some of my own pots right from off the landscape. Now these seeds were probably about 3 years old. They took a couple of weeks to come up. They just came up like the other day or a little earlier this week. And I had planted these back in late June, early July. So it's a little later than when I would have preferred to plant them. These gourd plants are usually very aggressive with how they grow, and so I'm sure I should be able to get a pretty good crop nonetheless. So I'm going to continue to try to water these, maybe add some compost, some grass mulch and stuff, so that these plants can get the fertility that they need and they can grow as fast as they possibly can. I have these hugelkultur mounds over here, so these gourds can kind of crawl up over there and take advantage of that space, so I can still gain productivity over this space, even though I'm not even growing really any crops at this time. Earlier on in the evolution of this channel, I had made pots out of cardboard tubes, and I had some success with that, especially with the larger, like oatmeal container tubes, not so much with the smaller paper towel ones. And then I have also used the 3-inch plastic pots, which are the ones that I used this year. And I have a bunch of them, but they don't always last long. They can crack over time, and they're not biodegradable. They're not going to break down. And then we have the concerns of taking up landfill space or creating microplastics and all those environmental and human health concerns. As these gourds begin to produce fruit, I am going to monitor them to make sure, see if I can harvest them a little earlier than at full maturity. That way the gourds are not as hardened up and tough, right? Because I would prefer to have them be able to break down in the soil. That way I don't have to remove the plants from their pots when I plant them, but we'll kind of see how that goes. So thank you so much for checking out this video on working to make my own biodegradable pots. I may also consider drilling holes in the bottom of those gourds. If they don't fully break down or decompose fast enough, the roots can still kind of find their way out of the pots and continue to grow. Also, so that it's probably good so that water can flow through them and out of the pots if there is too much. That way it doesn't get super saturated in the bottom of the pot. Additionally, I've also played around with the idea, at least in my mind, of trying to shape the gourds as they grow, right? And so we've heard about, like, in certain areas, like maybe in Japan, where they grow those cube-shaped watermelons. So I'm kind of thinking about that, maybe trying that with the gourds. The gourds are a distant relative of watermelons. And, you know, if I can kind of shape those into like something similar to the 3-inch pots, then those might fit pretty well in some of, you know, the flats that I have. And depending on how I do it, it also might help them to keep them standing up so they don't have too much of a rounded or unstable base. So like I said, this is pretty much in the early stages of development here. I've got the plants sprouting up, starting to grow. Again, hopefully it's not too late in the season. I've got some ideas kicking around in the back of my mind of what I'm going to do with these and how I'm going to improve it, and different ideas of how this might work. So definitely feel free to stay tuned, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Take care.